this is my favorite part of the day because we get to talk about my absolute favorite service, Amazon SageMaker. So I am here today with two esteemed colleagues. I will let them introduce themselves.
Hey, Randall.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Sunil Mallya from the Machine Learning Solutions Lab team.
Hi, I'm Shyam from the marketing team for AI services.
So you may remember Sunil and I from our series of live coding episodes where Sunil educated me about the wonders and awesomeness of ML and SageMaker and MXNet and all that good stuff.
And you've come a long way. Now you've got your Twitter bots doing many different things and using machine learning on AWS.
Using Lex, I'm actually able to completely eliminate communication with most of my close friends and relatives. So I've now replaced all human interaction with a Lex bot.
Cool.
But at reInvent last year, we launched a service called SageMaker. And SageMaker is a very, very, very powerful service made up of kind of 4 different orthogonal components. And that word orthogonal, it just means statistically separate. It means they're not tightly coupled. So you can use any of these 4 components in isolation as however it benefits your business. So the first of those is the notebook instance. And the notebook service. And these are Jupyter notebooks that get provisioned with all of the frameworks, tools, and associated roles and info that you need in order to be able to access your data and do stuff with it and run experiments or do kind of data visualization, all that fun stuff. The second really entertaining and amazingly innovative part of SageMaker is the built-in algorithms. And the reason those are so cool is that you're adding a new one basically every week at this point.
You're at 15.
Multiple algorithms.
So I don't remember how many there were when we launched. I think there were like 8.
8, and now we are 15 today.
Yeah, 15,
so the pace of innovation on SageMaker is insane. They're moving faster and faster, and we released 2 new features today, which I haven't finished the blog post for. That's how quickly these features are coming out.
The pressure is on.
The pressure is entirely on me. It's entirely my fault because the SageMaker team delivered, and I was just like, oh man, this is way too much stuff. I gotta learn it all. So we have that third component, which is the training service, and kind of augmenting that training service, and we can talk about this later, is the hyperparameter optimization and automatic model tuning.
Right.
And then the fourth and final component is the model hosting service. And this model hosting service is by far one of the coolest things that I've ever had the pleasure of working with. If you go to twitter.com/whereml, you can see a bot that we used. We took the location net inference, and there's a leak in the roof of the building that we're in. So just give us a moment. So if you heard that, the Javits Center, it's raining very hard here in New York. And there's a little bit of rain. We're dealing with it.
Structural issues.
Machine learning can fix this. So the fourth and final component is that model hosting service. And it's not just a single model that you're hosting. You can actually host multiple models and different variants, and you can A/B test them.
It's really great. You can have metrics. So you can actually find, not from objective metrics itself, but a real performance as to picking the best model that works for you.
Yes. So the 2 things that we launched today are enhancements to some of the built-in estimators. So there's this thing called pipe input mode. And you may have heard it in the keynote today with Matt Wood. He said we were launching streaming algorithms. And the way that this works is you can basically get data directly from S3. Can you tell me more about it?
So we actually have multi-threaded process working in the background, getting the data from S3. What this allows you to do is you can actually start your job before, you don't have to wait for all the data to come in. So your jobs start faster, your jobs end faster, and you pay less. And actually, I can share some numbers as well. So we all love numbers, right? On a 78 gig data set, we found about 87% improvement in terms of start times, which
from 11 minutes to 1.5 minutes or something.
So total the total training time went down by was about 35%. So you got improvements, which means you're paying 35% less for your entire training job. And what's great is like we introduced the pipe mode for TensorFlow today, but we'll be adding more.
And there's really technically nothing preventing you from adding it into existing frameworks. One of the things that we did to enable this for TensorFlow is we actually wrote custom extensions into TensorFlow. So these are C++ custom extensions, github.com/AWS/TensorFlow extensions or something like that.
Yeah.
And what it does is it exposes a TensorFlow data set as a pipe input mode.
Correct.
So you just get this class that you wrap and
then you
give it a channel and it just makes it for you.
Makes it easier to use TensorFlow on AWS.
Yeah.
Over 80% of TensorFlow installations today are on AWS.
So we should probably take a step back and talk about what are these different, we're throwing out a lot of proper nouns, right? And I understand everyone on the stream is not a machine learning expert. If you want some career security, I would strongly recommend investing some time into learning that. But what do we mean when we say TensorFlow, when we say MXNet? What are these things?
Yeah.
Like, can you give us kind of a high-level overview?
So think of this as frameworks that allow you to express your algorithms faster. So the deep learning frameworks make it easier for you to actually build some of these neural networks. And they take care of all the abstractions, like when you want to talk to the CPU, you want to talk to the GPU, or you want to train on multiple GPUs or CPUs. All that is made simple by the actual frameworks.
So instead of me having to write all the math or all the Python or all the C++, a framework provides a lot of primitives that allow me to do things like fully connected layer or
the foundation.
Correct. And I mean, think of, we can take your example of your WhereML bot, right? If you actually look at the lines of code that you had to write, it's insignificant compared
Although
to
I
all
will
the
say the pre-processing step there.
Correct. That is more.
Way more code.
You have more code in actually preparing your data and actually building out the models, and it's a testament to these deep learning frameworks. And what SageMaker allows you to do that is, once you have built this code, you can execute this on multiple machines. You can build. Your training is, simplified, so it's single-click training. Once you have the model, you can now put it in the hosting module and host those models, and it can scale independently.
So I could talk about SageMaker all day long and about every single individual component of SageMaker as well, but I thought it might make sense for us to focus on the two launches that we had today. So we've talked about pipe mode, and we've talked about what that enables, where you can basically get data into the container faster and start making calculations faster. And you can actually even go beyond the 16 terabyte limit of an EBS volume. You can actually train on literally petabytes of data.
You can train with a smaller volume, right? You don't need to provision and wait for all that data to download. You can actually stream it in.
Which is why the job starts so much faster.
Exactly.
And then the read throughput is also higher because that agent in the background that's downloading everything it's multi-threaded. It's really smart in how it deals with S3. It can do chunking and all that good stuff.
As far as you're concerned, like given the SDK interface, it's seamless for you to use that mode.
And what happens if you want to implement this in your own framework is it just exposes some environment variables and /opt/whatever. And then there's a file descriptor, and you just read from that file descriptor, and you get your data coming in. Now, the other feature that we launched was batch transforms, and I use the word transforms for a very specific reason, because you were talking earlier about that pre-processing step being often more code than the actual module training step.
It's pre-processing and post-processing, right? So what batch allows you to do is, rather than sending one at a time, you can actually send multiple, be it images or text, whatever that data is, you can send it into the hosting module. But once it's done, if it's image, we typically have a pre-processing step of formatting the image or cropping it, all that
224 pixels by 224 pixels. Good old ResNet and VGG.
Correct. And then you inference, and once that's there, you want it to be presented in a certain way. So that allows you to do that.
So I want to encourage everybody on the stream. You have here available to you right now the experts on SageMaker, the absolute people. If you want a feature, these are the people to yell at. If you want any kind of feedback,
we like to listen to our customers.
We love to listen to our customers.
Ask questions, anything that we're not defining, anything that you're more curious about, let us know. We're happy to dive deep and define some stuff. Right now, everybody's just complaining about the amount of stickers on my laptop. I don't think I have a SageMaker sticker on there, but we'll get one. So The batch mode, it's very, very powerful in that you're not just dealing with this this influx of data, right? You're not just doing a larger volume, because the inference endpoint you're limited to, I think, 5 megs or 10 megs.
So,
Yep.
5
So
megs.
now this allows you, if you have a large data set, or say you have a large video, or let's say magical image analysis that Matt was talking about, which where the images are really large, so you can get them in through this mode and process them. So it simplifies that limitation.
So, in fact, beyond that, and I just learned this maybe an hour ago, you can actually do infinite streams. So you can set the count of the number of partitions in your data to make to 0, and you can set the I forget the other parameter, but you basically just set both of these parameters to 0, and you could take streaming video data if you wanted. And they're things like, these aren't built-in algorithms, but you can run your own algorithms like YOLO or something like that.
And
on
do real-time
video.
inference on that stream.
And you're not restricted to real-time inference, right? You can do non-real-time predictions.
Yes.
For any data set. You can do from petabytes to very small data sets. So you pick your size.
And if you need to kind of do this asynchronous setup, and people are asking what YOLO is, it's a really good model.
It's a fast inference.
You only look once is what it means.
So it's faster in terms of typically a lot of video and analysis. People use these models.
So the other kind of really cool component of batch is that you can use it, like you said, across huge swaths of data. So a lot of the times, you're making machine learning inferences in real time. You're using that SageMaker endpoint to make those inferences. But let's say you wanted to serve things to customers in like a cached environment. You wanted to use Redis or Memcached or something to send like maybe the autocorrect suggestions or anything of that nature.
Yeah.
So you can run your batch transform job across an entire representative data set, maybe from customer data or something else, and then you can have all of those inferences pre-cached and then just serve them out to your customers, which is a very, very cool use case.
Yeah,
so
the entire ecosystem is actually present, and we integrate really easily.
So we've talked about batch inferences and transforms. We've talked about pipe mode for TensorFlow.
Yeah.
I would like for you to enumerate for me every single one of the built-in algorithms.
Oh,
and I'll say some things about those too.
All right. Maybe I should start from the newer ones, right?
Yeah.
So we launched KNN, so K-nearest neighbor. So you can build your models and find whether it's 3 or 5 neighbors based on the features that you input. Object detection, we launched that. So that was
Object detection works with the VGG16, ResNet 50, and you can pre-train the values on ImageNet and everything.
You can bring in your own data set as long as it's formatted, allows you to build your own custom object detector.
And then I just want to see, I'm sorry I'm putting you on the spot, just go. How many can you name in like the next 20 seconds?
All right, linear
We'll do it together.
linear learner, XGBoost, Deep AR.
Blazing text.
Blazing text, there you go.
Linear learner, you said.
Yeah, LDA, PCA, scikit, random cut forest. What else?
How many did we get?
I can name them all. No, I'm teasing. I can't. We don't need to turn this into a contest. So you forgot image classification.
Correct. Yeah.
And so we have a lot of built-in algorithms. And one of the interesting and powerful components of these built-in algorithms is that they are typically implemented in a way that scales much better than maybe the definition that was described in the original paper.
Right.
So you don't have to know anything about a particular framework, right? Like you don't need to know if it's implemented in MXNet. You don't need to know if it's implemented in TensorFlow.
These are basically exposed almost like API via the SDK calls.
You actually never even have to open an IDE. Like you just go into the console and put your data in.
Yep, indeed. But also custom, we talked about built-in algorithms, but it's also nice that you have custom algorithm support, so you can containerize your algorithm, get in your libraries. Suppose a version isn't actually present. We are keeping up with the pace of all the deep learning frameworks.
You just added Chainer.
Yeah, we added Chainer, PyTorch. If you have another framework that you want, you can customize, or a deep learning library that you've built. You can get all of this and train with that.
And I just want to reiterate a point that we've already made about the fact that these services are orthogonal in nature.
Right.
What I mean by that is I can use the hosting service completely separate from the
Training or notebook.
the notebook service. I don't have to, use one.
if
It
you
doesn't
already
need to be in
have
series. You can
if
be,
you already
can
have
use it.
trained models, you can get them in and host it on SageMaker.
And the way that the estimators work, and this is part of the SageMaker Python SDK, the way that these estimators work is I can take my existing TensorFlow script or my existing MXNet script, and I basically wrap it in a function called train, and it says whether I'm taking
as long
in.
as you hook, because the train is invoked by the train function.
Yes.
So as long as you hook that with your script, you're all good.
You're good.
So that brings me to the next kind of interesting feature, or interesting, mind-blowing feature of SageMaker, which is automatic hyperparameter optimization and model tuning.
Yep.
And frankly, this is magic. I can't think of a better way of describing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's think of this like as a practitioner, like where I spend most of my time is, I build a model, and then 80% of the time is actually spent, let's say pre-processing. But once the model is built, a lot of time is spent like, finding the best model. So you got to 92% accuracy, I want to get to 95. It's often like I found the right architecture, but you have to spend that time and spin up with different parameters. And what SageMaker does is allows you to specify, hey, here are the parameters I want to tune, and then we find the best parameters for you.
So I love that feature, and I love that you can do multiple training jobs in parallel. We don't have a lot of time left, and there's one more thing I want to ask you about. But before that, we have some questions from the Twitch chat. And the first is from Ali Stair Plays. Can SageMaker process video from learning via photos? So it's kind of like transfer learning, and also can it process video? And I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, so it's a pre-processing where you can, you can actually ingest the images. If you wanted a video, you can actually get that frame by frame and feed it into the model, or you can build a lookup so that you're getting n frames if your input to the model is some amount of frames.
And then we have another question from MelonLord5 about how do I use SageMaker in a startup environment?
I mean, this is really great. You only pay for what you use. So
and to the second. So you have a model for 500 seconds, you pay for 500 seconds. So for a startup, it's the best environment.
So you can, you have the hosting the notebook environment, but doesn't mean that you can't invoke SageMaker jobs outside of that. So if you're coding on your laptop, you can use that, use the SDK, spin up the jobs and kick off the training job. Or if you have trained models elsewhere, you can bring them in and host it on AWS.
So we have a little bit of time left, and I'm curious if you could tell me about maybe some startup customers that are using SageMaker, and then maybe some on the other side of the spectrum, maybe like healthcare customers or financial services customers that are using.
I mean, I've seen Matt's keynote today. We talked about Celgene, GE Healthcare, all using SageMaker. And on the startup side, we saw Tinder, ZocDoc. These are folks who are using.
We have Grammarly
using. So the spectrum of customers is we have
across a bunch of different verticals.
And we have a customer called interesting customer, Spotograph in Germany, who's actually taking pictures of sports people in any tournament and then doing machine learning over that for future tournaments. So it's a very interesting use case. So it's a very small startup in Germany using SageMaker, and that was very cool thought.
Yeah.
So I want to do a shameless plug here. If you want to see an example of a SageMaker inference endpoint in action, if you go to twitter.com/whereml, you can post a picture, any picture you want. It could be from your mobile phone. It never has to have been uploaded to the internet before. And the bot will try to predict where in the world that photo was taken. And if you take a picture of a McDonald's sign, by the way, it has hilarious results. McDonald's and 7-Elevens have the same logo everywhere, so it's very confused. But if you take a picture of something unique, like the Javits Center or the Empire State Building, it will very confidently tell you exactly where you are.
What's good is now we can actually send multiple images in with the batch mode.
And I was thinking about analyzing all of my selfies that way to just get a general sentiment.
You have way too many pictures, Randall.
I do. So, again, SageMaker, I am so excited to have you guys here, and I'm going to make sure to forward any questions that we have in the Twitch chat over to you.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to see you guys again at reInvent.
Yeah, I'm excited.
We're looking forward to it, and the journey continues, and the blog.
Yes, and I'm going to get the blog done tonight, I promise. And we'll see if we can post it tonight, maybe tomorrow, but I think you'll like it. Thanks, everyone. Up
Thanks,
next
everybody.
is
Bye.
our
See ya.
special guest.